Alexis, that stock ran up on Friday after they said Fedex did that they would earn 58 cents a share in the most recent quarter. So as we wait for the numbers to come out at any moment, and that is part of the Fox 50, and we're going to talk about that. Yuri Mann joins me, financial analyst and former investment manager at Barclays Capital, to talk about the Fox 50 in general. As a Bank of America news, Yuri, that I want to get to as well. But first, Fedex. As Alexis said, the company pretty much has baked in what it's going to say this morning, and it did surprise the market last week with this better than expected forecast. What do you make of what's going on at Fedex?
You know, FedEx obviously is a bellwether for the global economy. You look at FedEx and it's involved in virtually every industry in every part of the world. So people are obsessed with reading what's going on at FedEx as to what the impression is in terms of the entire economy. Most people are looking at FedEx and they're looking at the good news, and they're saying, there's a potential here in the short term that FedEx could benefit. For example, let's say a situation like Christmas comes and inventories are very low at retailers, and all of a sudden there's a jump in consumer spending. FedEx would benefit from that because you'd see a lot of use in FedEx. I'm a little negative on the stock personally, because I think that there are so many things out there that could affect them. For example, labor pressures. There have been a lot of talk about potential legislation that could hurt FedEx. Right now, all their drivers are treated as independent contractors, and which makes it hard for them to unionize. Other things that can happen: oil prices can go up. They're very suspect to potential fuel hikes, and with the situation with Iran and our current administration, we don't know what will happen in terms of oil prices. So there's plenty of negative news out there. And I think really your view on FedEx really depends on whether you think the economy is going to have a steep recovery. Are we looking at a V-shaped recovery?
Right.
I think there's still potential for another recession. So I'm not bullish on FedEx.
So there's a little bit of caution there because of the fact that you think that maybe the economy doesn't turn around as quickly as some other people do. We're coming up at 7:45 Eastern time. I'm just going to pause for just a second, Yuri, because a lot of times FedEx, like clockwork, reports at exactly 7:45 a.m. Eastern. We expect them to report exactly what they told us they would last week. And breaking right now, wouldn't you know it, 58 cents a share from FedEx in the first quarter. $8.01 billion in revenue, Yuri, is actually a little bit light. So maybe this fits in with your thesis. We were looking for almost $8.25 billion in first quarter revenue to have been reported, but it does reaffirm its forecast that it told us about last week for the second quarter, between 65 and 95 cents a share. But overall, the revenue number, it's down 20% from this time a year ago.
Right. I think that there's so many things working against FedEx here. I have a continued trend of people shying away from the premium products, trying to use the more deferred products. So many companies are saying, hey, let's stop using overnight altogether. Let's try to wait and see if we can ship our products, our documents, and use longer-term deferred products. And also, FedEx has been focusing on their lower-priced products because they know that they sell, and that could cannibalize some of their premium products. So it really depends on your view of the economy, but there's so many things that could work against FedEx that, if you're a buyer, I'd only buy on the dips right now, and I think there's a real potential for a correction.
Might get a little bit of a dip today because, if anything, that revenue, again, it's rare you would get a surprise when a company just days before its earnings report has come out and told us what they're going to say. They did say exactly that this morning, as we would expect, but the revenue figure was a little bit light. It says signs of improvement in the economy, and to challenge your point, Yuri, that's the bullish case here, is that, hey, listen, just about every economic indicator we've seen, propped up by government spending and everything else, has shown a sign of at least a bottoming, if not a turnaround. And why, that could help FedEx, even with some of the concerns that you brought up, no?
Yeah, no, Connell, I agree with you. I think if you look at their report, sometimes it's also important to read what they're not saying, which is, they really are, they're talking about the global economy more so than the U.S. domestic market. I think 60% of their business is international, and that's where they've seen the improvement in their business more so than in the U.S. domestic market. And so, I'm not yet convinced that they're sure that the U.S. is turning around, and even if we are in a recovery, does that mean that we are going to be in a steep V-shaped recovery, or are we going to have this sort of muted, very conservative growth? And a muted conservative growth, in terms of where the stock price is today, I just wouldn't be a buyer. I think, you'd have to be pretty bullish on the economy. And I think there's still a good 25% chance, in my mind, that we head into another recession in 2010.
Okay.
And that would really hurt, FedEx, yeah.
All right, so FedEx, again, out as expected. Revenue a little bit light. We'll see if the stock, as it was selling off a little bit, looks like we're having a little trouble with Yuri's video there. Look, the stock was selling off in pre-market trading, and we'll see whether or not that continues. 77.75 from 78.20, so it is a little bit lower so far this morning. All right, I think Yuri's still up and moving over there. It looks like the video is cutting out on you a little bit, Yuri. Nothing you said, of course. But that said, let me ask you about Bank of America real quick before we let you go. I said we had some news there. Andy Cuomo's been coming out after them, the New York State Attorney General, 5 subpoenas issued. Maybe he goes after Ken Lewis. What about Bank of America?
Judge Rakoff just not being happy with the SEC and Bank of America making this deal, it's obviously going to continue to make the headlines. And he has a good point, because you say, hey, why should Bank of America shareholders be penalized for the fact that their executives made these decisions which were not in the best interest of their shareholders? So you got to say, shouldn't the executives or whoever was responsible or whoever knew about this, about Merrill Lynch bonuses being up for payment and not being disclosed to the shareholders, shouldn't they be the ones to pay and not the shareholders? So Judge Rakoff, I like to say that name. I think he should have his own show. I'm so excited he comes out with something new every day.
Never know.
But I sort of agree with him that let's not agree with that $33 million settlement between SEC and the company, and let's see who was really responsible and protect shareholders' interests.
Okay, Bank of America's stock from 17.25, not moving that much in this morning's pre-market trading. Yuri, thanks a lot. FedEx, again, is moving a little bit lower. Thanks for joining us. That's a look at the Fox 50 this morning. Now back over to Jenna for some of the other news headlines that we're watching.
Thanks, Connell. Good morning once again, everyone. The FBI launching a terror raid in Denver, searching the home of a man they say may be linked to al-Qaeda. Authorities say 24-year-old Najibullah Zazi may be involved in a potential plot involving homemade bombs. Zazi